Hi everyone and welcome back. Mindy here with you today, and in today's card I'm going to be featuring the stamp set To the Stars, and this is from Neat & Tangled's April 2019 release. Here's a look at the stamp set To the Stars. You can see this has a few adorable images, the little girl sleeping on the moon with a bunny. We have some puffy clouds, a little sleepy moon, some stars, and then there's also a constellation, and there's a line and then a single star, so you can build your own constellation. So this is a really great scene building stamp set all on its own. I'm going to be starting off by coloring in my images. So I stamped these onto some Neenah Solar White cardstock. I used a Copic friendly ink. And then I'm starting off with the skin for both of my little fairies. I have E04, E11, E21, and E00. So E04 is the first color I start with, and I lay that right under the hairline and then off on the left-hand side of the face. And I blend out with the remaining colors. I'm going to do the same thing for this little girl here. So I'm adding that darkest color, E04, under the hairline, and then also to the inside of the legs and the bottom part of the arms. And then I go through and blend that out. Now I do go right over it with the E11. That just helps kind of fade that out a little bit. So the E04 is the shadow color that I'm using. And I just blend it out so it isn't so harsh. And then I'll finish off with the E21 and E00 to lighten that up a little bit and add in those highlight areas. Next, I'm going to come in with the hair, and just to kind of make this simple for me, I used the same hair color combination on both of the girls. So I start out with an E47, and I'm just adding in some small flicks into the hairline, not going in too far. I do like to keep them uneven. To me, that's kind of more of a natural look. And then I'll blend that out with an E27. And I'm not completely blending. I'm just going over those lines and extending out just a little bit more. And then I'll finish off with an E23. You could leave those white if you wanted to give it a little bit more definition. But I really like that E23 for a highlight color. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on my other little girl using the E47, E27, and E23. And for the bun, I just added a few lines here and there to kind of give that some depth. I wasn't too worried about the exact placement of them. It was just something to kind of show there's some curl and some shadow areas in there. Now for the dress, I'm using R85, R83, and R81. I added the darkest color, the R85, to the left-hand side of the dress and a little bit around the bunny because I would think that that bunny is casting a shadow onto the dress. And then blending out, I also added that R85 on the underside of the arm and blended out. Next, I'm going to come in and color the moon. And I'm not going to lie, I struggled with coloring the moon. For some reason, I don't know if it's the shape or if it's the yellows, which I honestly do struggle coloring yellows. But what I ended up using is Y19, Y15, Y13, and Y11. And I believe Y13 was an added color afterwards. I wasn't getting quite the blend that I wanted between the Y15 and Y11. So when I come back in to add another layer of color, I added that Y13 to kind of help that transition a little bit. So you can see I added the darkest colors to the inside of the moon and then getting lighter as I went out towards the edge. And I really liked the Y13 in there, I think, to really help kind of blend that out a little bit. Next, I'm going to color the other little girl's dress. So I went with BG18, BG13, and BG11. I used the BG18 to the left-hand side of the dress. I didn't go in between stripes. I just left it all one color, and I just blended out so that the lightest portion is going to be on the right-hand side. And at this point, I wasn't really worried about where the light source was really coming from. I just wanted to have the two different colors there. And then for the wings, I just did the B01 and B00, adding just slight flicks to the wings. I didn't color them in all the way. And for my bunny, I'm using E43, E42, and E41. And I did add those shadow areas pretty much to the left-hand side. So a little bit on the face there, and then left-hand side of his backside. And sorry, I was a little off camera there for a moment. I'm just coloring the underside of the clouds, and I use the same colors that I did on the wings. So the B01 and B00. Then I'm going to use the coordinating dies that you can purchase separately. I'm going to just place those over my images and hold them in place with some purple tape. And then I'll run them through my GEMINI Junior, which is the die cutting machine that I like to use. And then I'm just going to pop them out and they'll be all ready for my card. And I can see these puffy clouds are going to be used in a lot of future cards because I really like the look of these puffy clouds. So for my background, I'm going to do some ink blending. And I'm not going to lie, I'll be honest here. When I do videos, when I make cards, I always make a sample one first. So my original card, which I do have over on my blog, was a lot lighter than what this card is going to end up to be. And I honestly couldn't remember what I used. So this was kind of an experiment. I started with Tattered Rose, which is a really nice light pink. This color I know for sure I used. So I'm blending from both sides going towards the middle. Just a light pressure. You don't need to put a lot, even though it is a really light color. And I'm going to keep that middle portion white for right now. And I'm using my Picket Fence blending brush. That just helps me give a nice even coverage. It's really smooth to go on. And since I couldn't quite remember what I used, I'm coming in with Worn Lipstick, which is a little bit darker of a pink. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm starting from the bottom of my cardstock, blending up towards that Tattered Rose. I wanted to still leave that light, though I wanted the Tattered Rose to show. And then same thing on the other side of the card, just coming in from the bottom, going towards the middle. I am using some white layering cardstock to do my ink blending, and I really do like ink blending on the glass media mat because everything just glides right over. Nothing catches. It's just a really nice surface to work on. For me personally, it's just really hard to film on it because I can see my reflection in it a lot of times, but I really do like working on this surface. Next, I came in with Dusty Concord, and this is just adding a really light purple towards the bottom. It's not an in-your-face purple. It's just kind of a nice dusting of purple. And I added that to the very bottom, and then I'm going to come through and just work those colors together. So I come back in with the Worn Lipstick, a little bit more with the Tattered Rose, to just try and soften those lines where the colors are meeting. And a little bit more with that Dusty Concord, and then I'll flip it over and do the other end of it, and I'll go through those same steps. I'm going to start with the Dusty Concord, and then I'll come in with the Worn Lipstick and just try and soften those lines. And this is just going to give a really nice dreamy background to our cute little images that we have. So once more with the Worn Lipstick, and then back in with the Tattered Rose. And then I thought that white in the middle was just too stark white. So I do end up going over that entire thing with a light hand with that Tattered Rose. And I think these were the colors I did actually use in my first card I had made. It's just that depending on how much pressure you put down will determine how your color is going to come out. So I did end up putting probably a little bit more pressure to my Worn Lipstick than I wanted to. But I think they both look great. I do have both examples on my blog if you wanted to take a look in the difference. So once my background is done, I can go ahead and start attaching my images to the card. So I'm starting off with the clouds, and I'm just going to run some adhesive on those and put those right down onto the card front, just kind of layering up those clouds a little bit. My little girl and bunny that is on the moon, I'm going to add some foam tape behind that so I can just pop that up for a little bit of dimension. And I'll do the same thing for this other little fairy that's up at the top. I just added some foam tape to her to kind of pop her up. and then adding my little girl. There was a little bit of foam tape kind of hanging over, so I'm just going to trim those off with some non-stick scissors that I have. And this is just such a sweet image. I really did get carried away with examples for this release because they were just too cute and I could not stop creating with it. For my sentiment, I am using another stamp set from the April 2019 release, and this is Dream Big. I love this sentiment, so I've used it quite a few times. I decided to heat emboss this onto some black cardstock. So I did prep my cardstock with an anti-static powder tool. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment into some clear embossing ink. Sprinkle on the white embossing powder, and then I'll go ahead and heat that up with my heat tool till it's nice and melted. And I do like to take a Swiffer cloth and kind of brush away any of the excess powder. So once I trimmed this down, I just attached that on top of my clouds with some foam tape. And one last thing to add to my card front is I'm using the Enchanted Sequence Mix. And I'm just going to attach those with some liquid glue and my tweezers. And then I'll top it off with the unicorn stickles. And that's just going to add some nice little sparkles to the center of those sequins. And they'll make sure that the sequins really does stick down to the cardstock. So then here I'll go ahead and give you a closer look at the blending and the images. Just a really sweet and dreamy card. I hope you enjoyed today's inspiration. My supplies will be listed down below in the video description and on my blog as well. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.